Well, hey guys, today I am joined by our Director of Children's Ministry, Anna Butler. Hi,
Hello,
Anna.
hello.
Yeah. Anna, is it been 2 years now that you've been in your role?
Year and a half. Year
Year
and
and
a
a
half.
half.
So not
All
quite
right.
two.
And remind me, how many years were you doing youth work?
I started interning in 2016.
Wow. Yeah. And you started with Brian Morgan and then
Mhm.
had the unfortunate opportunity to work with
Terrible.
me. No. Um, Yeah. Well, I want to do these little interviews just so that we get to know some of our staff a little bit better and honestly just kind of hear what your hopes are in what you're doing, what makes you come alive, those kinds of questions. And so the first question I have for you, Anna, is, you obviously have years of working with preteens and teens, and then you transferred over to working with the little ones. But you mentioned your internship, but what drew you initially to working in the church, and kind of what kept you going in it, I guess?
So my friend from college actually invited me to come to the youth group to just see if I wanted to volunteer and work, just to be involved in a church because she knew that I was involved in church in high school and I was involved in lots of campus ministries at Florida Southern. And so she invited me over, and right from the bat, it was like, oh, there's this awesome community that I was a college kid. So all I had was other college kids around me. I didn't have any adults to like, hey, do you need come have dinner with me to have a normal home cooked meal? Come
Yeah.
just sit with me and just be not a college kid for a little bit. So that kind of drew me in and kept me because I had a family away from my family in Mississippi. I had people that I could say, hey, I got a flat tire. Can you please help me? Because otherwise it was just
You're on
college
your
kids
own.
trying to figure out what we were doing. And we didn't do that well. So it was nice to just have a community. So that really kept me at FPC, and then just kept me in the community of wanting to serve because I had all these people that I loved to serve and their families that I loved to serve, that I became a part of their family. So Mother's Day, I wasn't able to go home years ago, and I had Mother's Day with one of the youth volunteer, like my second year in the job. So it became this family that was like hard to, why would I want to leave?
Yeah. Did you, I don't actually think if I know the answer to this, were you connected to like the Presbyterian world prior to this, or
No, I grew up Assemblies of God.
that's
So
right.
very different. And then I went to Florida Southern, a Methodist school, and I went to campus ministries there and chapel there. And then I was looking for a home church and went to all different places. And then my friend invited me here and I landed here.
That's awesome. That
Yeah.
explains why you always speak in tongues. I didn't
Yeah.
connect. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
All the time. Front row.
What there are different there's a spectrum of assemblies of God. I'll put it that way, on like high Pentecostal. I mean, they're all Pentecostal, but like,
Right.
yeah, what was your home church like?
It was more mild. It was not anything crazy. And it's interesting because Pastor Kenny, who was a while back, he also was Assemblies of God prior to Presbyterian. And we talked when I first got hired, we had an interview and we were talking, and I was like, I just love the structure of Presbyterianism because Assemblies of God is just so free for, which is great. But I am such a structure person that like having it be set helped me so much because like our services would go on for like 3 hours at my home
Oh man,
church. And I
yeah.
am like, 3 hours is a long time.
I've um I've been to a few kind of like charismatic Pentecostal churches over that never like worked for one, but yeah, there were some that were, for the most part, pretty structured and kept to their time or whatever. But there was outpouring of the Holy Spirit or whatever every now and then. But then, to your point, there were others where I'm like, I don't think this guy prepped anything. I think he's just like, I'm going to open up my Bible and whatever happens. happens. And
Yeah.
then he'd go off on these rants. And I feel like every other week it was like, didn't we talk about that last week? I don't know. So,
Yeah. And having different people come up and speak, I'm like, I like knowing what is,
yeah. Yeah. And you get some good ones and then you get some, you're like, okay, Tina, like, do you really need to be up there again? But that's cool. Well, so now that you're in children's ministry, which, speaking of structured, is probably a lot more structured than what you've been doing for a while. But now that you've been in it for a bit, what's your biggest hope in what you want to accomplish through the ministry? I mean, on one hand, there's only so much we can do with young students, but in your head, as you're dreaming, as you're praying to God, like what would you like to accomplish through what you're doing?
I would love it to be a ministry that they leave children's ministry, go into youth, and know what the gospel is and what it means to them. And it not just be Bible stories, that it starts with that, right? That they learn these different stories of who God is and all of that, but that they end up in fifth grade going into sixth ready to say, oh, this is what the gospel is. This is what it means to me. And this is why I believe it. That it would be something that they have in their head ready to go so that when they get to Seth, they know this is what we're going to learn about in more detail about the gospel.
Yeah. Well, it's at least working with Wyatt. I can't tell if it's a combination of Little Shepherds and y'all's, or but I don't know. I actually don't know how much Little Shepherds, do they lean into that a lot? I'm sure they do, but
I'm not sure to what. I don't know to what degree.
Yeah, I mean, I know I should ask more, but I'm assuming he's more so getting it from church and Wednesday nights. But he has this. I took him to a bookstore and he picked out this like New Testament little orange Bible and was like, "This is it. This is my Bible. I want it." And we're like, "Okay." No pictures in it whatsoever. But he'll read it, he'll open or pretend to read it. And he was telling us the story of Jonah, and then it always merges into the cross. And so I'm like, so, hey, if the gospel was what you're aiming for, Wyatt has walked away with that. He knows it. He says Jesus died for 3 weeks instead of 3 days, but we'll work on the details.
Get there eventually.
Yeah. How do you feel? How do you feel that goal? Do you feel like you're achieving that? What more could you do, or is there more you could do? How do you? We hate to compare because we're not, we're not at odds with other churches. But if you were to say, well, this is the way we're accomplishing it a little bit differently, or why we're focusing on this, yeah. What kind of details could you give me?
So we just switched curriculum for our K through third graders on Sunday mornings to Wonder Inc. And they really focus on the Bible is true. This is the Bible. The story comes from the Bible, and then it ends with the gospel every single week, pretty much. And so they pretty much every single.
That's why Wyatt now connects it every time. So now I know where he's getting it from. Okay, it worked.
And so that kind of automatically sets into practice those truths and getting that into their head. And then in fifth grade, which is something we're working on, because the fourth and fifth graders have kind of been in this odd zone because we think they're a little too mature for our first kids 10:30. So we want something more mature for them, age appropriate and ready to prepare them for youth. And that has only been just twice a month. And so our goal now is to get it every week. And we're teaching from New City Catechism. So the goal is next year to start it weekly and just to go through the truths in New City Catechism. It's what is sin, just kind of deeper level of the biblical truths and the gospel, so that they kind of have a more, because they're ready to have those conversations, and they'll have them when we do have the weeks that we have fourth and fifth graders.
And you said it is going to be weekly?
That is the goal. We need volunteers to have that happen, but the goal is to have it weekly.
That's awesome. So, that's great. Yeah. When I first started, and I adopted it, so it wasn't like an idea I had, but they had a separate fifth and sixth program on Sunday mornings In fact, if I recall, it was the only program we had Sunday mornings outside of like once fourth grade ended, it was fifth and sixth, and then they didn't really have any other children's thing. They kind of merged them. But what we ended up doing was kind of making fifth and sixth stylized a little bit like our youth culture was. That way, by the time you got into seventh grade, sixth, seventh grade, you were kind of like, oh, it's kind of the same rhythm. And yeah, it just helps prep them to be ready for, because I know Seth in his realm, it's very heavy question interactivity. And if you're used to kind of just sitting there and listening, that would be and it's intimidating. You're around high schoolers and, all that stuff, but
more small group discussion. We're trying to get that with the fourth and fifth graders. Yeah. It is definitely a big jump.
Yeah. Now, are you using the same curriculum? Well, no, you said New City Catechism. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could you talk about that a little bit for those that don't know what that is?
So New City Catechism, it goes through, there are hundreds of questions. I don't know the exact number, but just questions and answers of, the first one starts out, who is God? Who is the Holy Spirit? Just questions like that. And it talks through it. It gives a Bible verse to back it. And then it just keeps going into just different questions that lead to the answers. And there are 4 different parts of it. I don't have the 4 parts off the top of my head, but I know one is about God, the gospel. And so it breaks it down, and it really, there's some questions that they're like, well, no, duh, we know that. But then there are some that are like, oh, wait, when we think about that, what is that? Like, why is that?
Yeah.
So it just covers such a broad range of things.
That's good. That's awesome. Is there, and you might not have one, and that's okay if you don't, but like, what's your next big dream for the ministry? Obviously you've been talking, or at least from what I've heard, you've been talking about this fourth and fifth, of kind of ramping it up and making it a fuller ministry. Is there another big dream down the pipeline, or something you guys are thinking about, or?
Really? Well, my big dream would be there's 2, to have kind of a consecutive plan of like, okay, we know, which I think the new curriculum that we have will get us there. It's just sitting down and really saying, okay, I would love to say, okay, by kindergarten, they'll know this. By second grade, our kids will know this truth. And by 5th grade, they know the full gospel and they're ready to go to youth. That would be my dream, to have like a plan of exactly what a child starting from birth, Walter starting in the church, will go through in his time in children's ministry. That's my goal. And to have it written down, to have it clearly defined, so we can hand parents and be like, hey, this is our goal. We need you to partner with us because we can't do it alone. It's not our job to do it alone. Yeah. And I think having a clear thing written out would be really cool, just to show parents, hey, we do care about where we're going, not just the Bible verses.
Yeah.
So it'd be that. And then actually the preschool. So Wyatt's age, we haven't had the time or really resources to pour a lot into the preschoolers. So right now it's actually Marianne writing up lessons from the Bible, and she ties in kind of what the other curriculum does. But the curriculum has a preschool section that we aren't even tapping into, because we're like, we don't have the capability right now to even think about that. And like, to bring in Little Shepherds, to invite the families, to just, because that ministry could explode. But right now we're like, we don't have it in us right now. We're focusing on 4th and 5th. We're focusing on the curriculum. We're focusing on all these different things. So a longer term goal would be preschool, and just having that be a huge ministry, because we have a preschool in our building that a lot of parents I don't think have home churches. So, hey, you're here 5 days a week, make it 6 and come worship with us. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's great. How can we be praying, or how can we help? Or you have VBS coming up soon. How are you feeling about all that?
We're getting excited. We need like 9 more crew leaders. We have lots signed up. I think we have over 200 signed up now. Wow. I think. So it's getting exciting. So prayers for VBS, prayers as we prep the summer for the new year. We also need, just going to shout it out while I have the chance, in the new school year, we need a new teacher for First Kids 1030 and a new worship leader. So it's monthly commitments, once a month. The worship, you get to go into service, you do 3 songs, and then you go into service, and then you come back at the very end. The teacher, you get to teach the wonderful kids about Jesus and the gospel, because we're losing 2 of those volunteers. So the goal is to find 2 volunteers this summer. So if anybody wants to be with the kiddos, Sunday morning, 10:30, once a month, not a big commitment.
Awesome. And just to let you guys know who may be watching or listening, like Anna mentioned, she's got curriculum. So this is not, the deepest theology. It's, can you smile and be excited about it and maybe make some jokes or something. But
and we do have a training, like you will be prepared for whatever role you would like to play in children's ministry.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Anna, I appreciate your time. Been just on a personal level, it was awesome to work with you and partner with you in youth ministry. Those were good times. You got me, coming into new ministry can be overwhelming, and you were amazing. And it's just so cool to see kind of your progress here at the church, and just how well you're doing in your new role. And you got little baby Walter, and some big shifts in life going on. And so, yeah, just excited for you guys, excited for you and Noah, and glad you guys are a part of our ministry, and we would not be the same without you. So,
well, we love doing ministry here. We love doing ministry with you guys, and it's been fun to see both of us kind of new adventures the past.
That's right, yeah. Which is pretty rare actually for a church.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of shifting often. It's like, well, see you guys later. But
yeah.
Well, thank you, Anna. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure I'll do another interview with you sooner rather than later. But you have a wonderful day. Just a quick update. We had our men's weekend, and like I mentioned before, it was a small group of us, and that was intentional. We wanted to try out the camp and see if it made sense for us going forward, and who it's a fit for, and so on and so forth. On a personal level, it was great to just get away with some friends, and even some new people that I didn't know as well, and worship God and talk about what it means to take Him seriously at home, at our jobs, and so on and so forth. And so overall, I think it is it goes pretty quickly. It was nice. There was air conditioning. The food was phenomenal. And for a camp, that never happens. Steak tacos, all sorts of good stuff. It was great. So overall, I think it was a win. I think it's a great way for men who have not quite committed to their faith, or aren't sure where they are in their journey. I think this is a great kind of restart moment to get away from the normal, reconnect with God, or connect with God for the first time, connect with some other guys who are in the same path and journey as you, and start to think through what it looks like to pursue Jesus, or what it looks like to take the next step. So it is definitely something we'll think about doing again next year, and it's well worth your time. It's a fun place. There's good food. There's plenty of places to relax, and more importantly, I came back rejuvenated to be a better husband and father, and ultimately connect with God more. So it was a win. Another cool thing is I've mentioned Agape, and Agape now has kind of a rotation of different speakers. John Fullerton, myself, Paul Suich, Zach, Jim Chastain will be another one in there. Tyson, I just had a conversation with him, Tyson Voigt. So we're going to have kind of a rotation. I'd like to get Abby in there, of different people and different voices, going into deep dives on just different subjects, a book of the Bible, you name it. And so if you're not part of if you're looking for a Sunday morning class, this is a great place to start. We want them in a little bit of a shorter series. So mine this last week and the week coming up is on the Angel of the Lord. It's just a 2-part series, and here's why. If you're a newcomer and you're trying to find a Sunday morning class to kind of jump into, Agape is the perfect place now because we have these shorter stints where if we're going through the middle of a book and it's a 10-week long course, you kind of feel like you've missed the boat a little bit, or you don't have the book. And so we wanted Agape to be a quick way to jump into something and pick right up and get to know some people. So yeah, currently I'm the speaker for this next coming week on the Angel of the Lord, and you can find all those recordings on our YouTube channel, of course. And then coming after that, Pastor John Fullerton will be back for a couple weeks. So just wanted to let you know about that. We do have a big need. VBS is coming. It's summertime. And so we have hundreds of kids who are going to be going through a week-long fun vacation Bible school run by Anna Butler. But as of right now, we need around 20 more volunteers. So if that is something you have the time for and have the capacity for, please reach out and email her. I'll provide the email here. So if this is something that you're able to do and you have the time to do, please, please, please reach out to Anna Butler, shoot her an email, and she'll get you plugged in to how to go about that. But thank you at least for considering. So some of y'all know I get the opportunity to run a men's group on Thursdays. We're actually shifting during the summertime to Wednesday night. So we'll have 2 men's groups on Wednesday night. And there was a couple reasons for this. One, we're usually at Tripp's house, and so I wanted to give him a break to have his house back on a Thursday night. And 2, one of the discipleship initiatives that we've been pushing is this idea of mentoring. How do we connect our veterans, whether men or women, veterans of the faith, if you will, to the young people we have in our church, to journey alongside them, to be a part of their lives, to meet for lunch, to meet for coffee, to go walk around Lake Hollingsworth, whatever the thing is y'all want to do, but connect ultimately and talk about faith and life. And so we have a big need for that. And we've been pushing it in several different ways. And in fact, one of the ways is if you read our blog, our monthly blog, I've written a little piece there on mentorship that I think could be helpful. If it's something that's on your heart, please reach out to me or even Tim Timmy's, and we'll figure out how we could possibly make that happen. So there really are a couple ways that we're going about that. The first is my men's group is switching to Wednesday so that some of these younger guys in Tim Timmy's groups can be a part of our group. And so I've kind of coached up my men that we're going to talk about subjects that will really relate to any guy on any age or level, rather than them coming into our world and we just talk about families or marriage or whatever. And although on one hand, that is something they need to look forward to and could definitely use some advice to, what ends up happening is we end up talking about subjects that they don't relate to, and so it kind of scares them off. So we wanted to create a space where all of us could exist, and potentially friendships come out of that and mentorship come out of that. So my hope is not just that we're there congregating together on a Wednesday. My hope is that lifelong friendships bud out of it. So if this is, again, something you are is on your heart about mentorship or about getting to know the younger generations and you're a man, I want to encourage you that starting this next Wednesday, we will be at the church. I think we're going to congregate in room E, but you'll see it posted anywhere. And if not, you have questions, again, shoot me an email, shoot me a text message, and I'd love to get in contact with you. A couple news items I want you all to know about. We have a men's hangout and a women's hangout coming up. So on June the 7th, the men are having a trivia lunch. You can find the registration information. I'll kind of post it on either side of me here. We'll be doing wings and sides and food, of course. Ultimately, there's going to be a competition for trivia that'll be kind of man-oriented and then some Bible kind of scattered in there. There'll be teams of 2, and part of our disciple initiative with this is, again, to connect the different generations together. So the teams will be consisting of young and old coupled together to kind of break some of that ice, have a friendly competition, have a prize, eat together. And then after that, we'll have conversation around what does it look like to have a mentor and be built into, or what are the needs for a mentor. And so hopefully what we're praying for is that the Holy Spirit grip the hearts of the young guys or even the older guys into going, hey, let me meet up with coffee with this person. I really had a connection, and I think I could see myself journeying alongside him. And so that's one of our initiatives, to do something fun as men together while having kind of a reason for why we're gathering together. Same thing for the women's bingo night. So for the men, that's June 7th. For the women's bingo night, that's June 26th. You can find all that information. I'll post it here and all over the website and so forth. But same kind of idea, that this is open for all women of all ages. We're creating events for all generations to get to know one another and be a part of what we have going on. So something to look forward to. Okay. The other thing I've done behind the scenes is I'm always reading something. Too many books. That's the problem. I constantly have people coming up to me, have you read this book? And usually, a lot of times I recognize the name or maybe the book, and I have it on my backlog, or I'll even have it in my library, but I haven't gotten around to it. And so, so when people offer for me to read books, it's really hard because I always reading books. So yeah, I usually juggle anywhere from 4 to 8 different books at a given time, and somehow by the grace of God retain most of the information. And some are better and some are not. So I want to highlight a couple of them I have just finished that I think are worthy of talking about. The first one is called Connecting by Dr. Larry Crabb. Dr. Larry Crabb is used to be in the counseling field and has kind of transitioned to a full-time speaker, and his books are phenomenal. There's one called Men of Courage that was really helpful for me just as a young man, kind of discovering how do you walk through the chaos of life when you don't have the answers? How do you stay faithful in that? But in Connecting, it's really interesting to me because for a couple of reasons. One, we've got generations that, although we have all this technology of connecting, they've lost the art of how to connect person to person, how to ask hard questions and follow up with those, and even challenge one another. But the same thing applies to the church. We talk about this idea of being community and being family, but usually what we develop are these kind of shallow conversations and friendships. I wouldn't even call them real friendships, where we don't go below the surface. We don't ask the hard questions, or we don't actually weep for one another or show up when we need to. And so in order to develop that kind of real relationship, we have to connect on a real level. So Dr. Larry Crabb's book is really great. He basically says, I don't think we need as many therapists as we think we do. We just need the church to do what it's supposed to do, which is connect with one another. And so he gives great insight on how to go about that and why it's important. And I think, even thinking of the generation divide that we have, how this book will help you connect to even people that, quite frankly, you wouldn't naturally be drawn to. And I've said this many times, as a man who's moved plenty of spaces and worked at different churches and different places, I can make friends anywhere. Not because I'm necessarily the most outgoing person or most interesting person, because friendship at the end of the day is me choosing a few people and going, those are the people I'm going to pour into and spend intentional time with. So I'm going to ask intentional questions. I'm going to go out of my way to make sure that we meet up and spend time with one another. And it always works. And so anyway, if you're looking for something on maybe some advice or some new thoughts on how to connect in that way, or why that's even important to make real friendships, Connecting by Larry Crabb is a fantastic one. Another author I really love is Tremper Longman III. He writes commentaries and does a fantastic job of speaking to maybe some of the harder subjects, especially in the Old Testament. So I've read a lot of his books. God is a Warrior, I think that's what it's called, is another one I just finished reading that's really good. And actually in Agape, I'll be teaching on that soon. But there's another one called Confronting Old Testament Controversies. So this covers everything from evolution to sexuality to kind of some of the Old Testament histories. Are they true? Are they not true? And then just the overt violence. Now, depending on what your background is or what kind of church you went to growing up, or really the culture that shaped you, there's kind of some people who go, I like the idea of God as a warrior. There are others who go, well, Jesus would never do that, and yet you see him flipping tables. And then even if you kind of have a pretty healthy balance of the same Jesus in the New Testament as the same Jesus in the Old Testament, there are some pretty hyper-violent things going on in the Bible. And so this book, even concerning sexuality and violence, really covers, I think, in a easy to read but scholarly way on how do we make sense of that. And so he does a really good job of kind of showing those who would go against his opinion and why he would rebut those, or how he would handle answering those questions. So if you're a person who likes to deep dive on these particular subjects, Confronting Old Testament Controversies is an excellent starter at the very least. So hopefully those are helpful.